When you picture a samurai, what comes to mind? A lone warrior, katana drawn, ready for a dramatic duel. Right, Hollywood and anime have drilled this image into our heads. But what if I told you that the iconic katana, the so-called soul of the samurai, wasn't their primary weapon on the battlefield? In fact, relying on it would have been a death sentence. Today, we're unsheathing the truth about the samurai's real killer weapon. Let's rewind to feudal Japan. At time of massive, chaotic battles, samurai weren't just swordsmen. They were heavily armored cavalry and foot soldiers. Imagine trying to fight a guy in full plate armor with just a sword. It's like trying to open a can with a butter knife, not very effective. The katana was a sidearm, a last resort. It was a symbol of status, yes, but on the battlefield, it was a backup weapon. Pulling it out meant things had already gone horribly wrong. So, what did they actually use? Before we get to the number one weapon, let's talk about the honorable mentions. First, the yumi, or the longbow. For centuries, the way of the samurai was the way of the horse and daishō. From horseback, they were mobile artillery, raining down arrows on enemy formations before the fighting even got close. Archery was a core skill, far more crucial in large-scale warfare than swordsmanship. Then, in the 16th century, everything changed with the arrival of the tanegashima, or the matchlock rifle. The Japanese were masters of adaptation. Warlord Oda Nobunaga famously equipped his peasant soldiers, the ashigaru, with thousands of these firearms. At the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, his gun lines devastated the legendary Takeda cavalry, proving that disciplined firepower could beat traditional samurai tactics. Samurai themselves quickly adopted firearms, recognizing it have a game-changing power. But even with bows and guns, there was one weapon that dominated the battlefield, the true workhorse of the samurai. It wasn't glamorous, but it was brutally effective. I'm talking about the yari, the spear. That's right, a long stick with a pointy end. It might not look as cool as a katana, but the yari was the king of the battlefield. Why at reach? A standard yari could be anywhere from 10 to 20 feet long. In a clash of armies, a wall of spears was nearly impenetrable. A swordsman would have to get through that deadly forest of points just to get within striking distance, and by then, it was too late. The spear was versatile, too. It could be used from horseback, on foot, for stabbing, for tripping, and even for swatting opponents off their feet. Different spearheads were designed for different purposes, some for piercing armor, others for slashing. It was cheap to make, easy to train with, and devastating in formation. The yari, not the katana, was the weapon that won battles and carved out empires. So, the next time you see a samurai the movie, remember the reality behind the myth. The katana was a personal, symbolic weapon, a last defense. But the real instruments of war, the weapons that defined an era of combat, were the bow, the gun, and above all, the humble but deadly spear. The history is always more fascinating than the fiction. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering this piece of history, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Let us know in the comments what historical myth you want us to tackle next. See you in the next one.